against the Blazers. Danny Green hasn't gotten it going yet. J.R. Smith hardly played, didn't score. Kyle Kuzma, supposed to be the third leading scorer, didn't do much. They're just doing this behind LeBron and AD right now. Stephen A., eventually, Danny Green's history says he's going to start getting hot. You know, eventually, J.R. Smith's going to hit a three at some pivotal point in the game. You'd be like, well, okay, if J.R. Smith starts hitting threes, what are the Blazers supposed to do? That's the point. LeBron plus AD equals too much for a team like the Blazers, almost no matter what else they have around them. But they do have some competent pieces around them. I see this as a 5, maybe 6-game series.
Well, listen, the reason why I believe they could go 7 is because my belief is that LeBron and AD would do their thing, especially AD right now. Major props to him for playing like a man amongst boys. He ain't just shooting jumpers. He's taking it to the hole strong. He's scoring on putbacks, offensive rebounds, and just making Hassan Whiteside and Nurkic look sorry. They got to get their act together because this dude is doing that while patrolling the paint himself with JaVale McGee on occasion and Dwight Howard. But the reason why I would tell you I thought it was going 7 games, and I'm still holding out hope for that, is because I think that Portland could score on anybody. What I will give the Lakers credit for is that their defense has been impressive. And Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has come off the bench and in the last 2 games is shooting 7 of 14 from three-point range. That's 50% shooting from three-point range. And he's got like 16 and 13 points respectively. When you're getting a guy like him with Danny Green hitting occasional spot-up threes or Kyle Kuzma giving his contribution, you're absolutely right. Portland doesn't have a chance. I just don't anticipate they will do that for the entirety of a 7-game season. I think they'll do it for the 4 games the Lakers win, but I think 2 to 3 games, and I'm predicting 3 games, that may not happen. And as a result, Portland will be in position to make some noise and push this to 7 games before losing the series. But it's about Dame, it's about CJ, and then, of course, you got to look at Gary Trent. He's being exhausted having to guard LeBron. Stouts is going to have to free him up a little bit. And Nurkic with these weak, soft moves to the basket, trying to throw up finger rolls from 10 feet away from the basket and all of this nonsense. What the hell are you doing? It's Anthony Davis down there. Yeah. You got to be a man, and on the offensive side of the ball, be a presence and make some noise. That's what they're going to have to do. I'm thinking they're going to do it for 3 games, not 2, and this series will go 7 before the Lakers will close them out. But Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is an X factor. The way he's playing the last 2 games, he could help them take out Portland in 5.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. You have a guy like KCP who can do a lot of things, but maybe none of them well enough to be a star, right? But can do some things, especially with fresh legs off the bench. If he starts doing something on a LeBron AD team, as soon as you get contributions from a guy like KCP, you feel like throwing up your hands. Like, what are you supposed to do if that dude's going to start to go off? Let alone, I mentioned Danny Green and those guys. But Stephen A., I thought from the beginning the Clippers had the tougher draw here. I'm not worried about the Blazers because they don't play defense, and the Lakers do. I'm very worried about the Clippers, my preseason pick, because my preseason dark horse, my preseason sleeper pick, the Mavs, look like a whole lot of right now. But Portland, respect to Damian Lillard and McCollum playing with a
Talk to me about the Dallas Mavericks when I see the Clippers playing defense the way I know they can play. That Clippers defense has not shown up yet. Now, obviously, that could be because of Doncic and Porzingis. I don't think so. I think the men on the Clippers show up.
All right. After Game 3's trash talk got heated, Montrezl Harrell used a derogatory term towards Luka Doncic. Before Game 4 between the Clippers and Mavs, Harrell apologized to Luka. The pair hugged it out before tip-off. Perk back here with us. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Is it fair to let Harrell off the hook here?
listen, he apologized. He manned up. And that's the most important thing there. He didn't need a statement. He didn't need a press conference. He didn't need to be prodded and pushed by the NBA or by the team himself. He was man enough to recognize that in the heat of competition, even under those circumstances, particularly the sensitive times that we're living in, it was ill-advised and inappropriate for him to say what he said to Luka Doncic. And so as a result of that, I give him props, but I give Luka Doncic even more props for accepting the apology and moving forward as contemporaries in the National Basketball Association. The one thing that I'd like to add to that, on so many occasions, there are so many people out there that would like to sit up there and say, well, guess what? If the white guy had said that to the black guy, called them a boy, or called them an N-word, you know what? Imagine how it would have been. It's a double standard. My response is, you're damn right, A, and so what? The fact of the matter is, when you consider the iniquities that have taken place throughout American history as it pertains to the treatment of black men, there is no question that to some degree there's going to be a double standard, that to some degree that the reactions are not going to be the same. Because when you, even though he's Slovenian, and obviously he's not an American citizen, we all understand that the lighter your pigmentation has been in this nation, the lighter your hue, the better you have been treated in comparison to those of darker hue and darker pigmentation, particularly from disenfranchised communities in this nation. That is an historical fact. It cannot be denied. And so as a result of that, when you see sometimes an imbalance, the imbalance is in an effort to sort of equal the playing field. And it's something similar to what I brought up to Max months ago, which I'm sure he'll appreciate. It's like somebody complaining that if you're black and guess what, you're given a head start, you're given a 25 or 50-yard advantage. Well, excuse me, what kind of advantage do you think you had for 400 years? Those are the kind of things that we're looking at. Because if you don't give some, I'm saying, I'm not using the word like literally an advantage. I'm saying if you don't give some leniency and understanding and some sort of a head start, then we'll never catch up from a societal perspective. And that's where I'm coming from with that.
That's exactly where I wanted to start. Advantage, 25-yard head start. White people put black people 500 yards behind them and then said, here, take 25 yards. And then some white people are complaining about the 25 yards. You're still up by 475 yards, geniuses. Hey, look, the bottom line is this about double standards. If you're stupid enough to not understand this, or maybe I don't even want to call someone names. Maybe you just genuinely don't understand it. Let me make it simple. Would you trade being oppressed for 400 years, enslaved, if you were literate, it was a crime. Your family, you could be separated from your children, sold up, or the Reconstruction, you're a second-class citizen, you don't have access to housing or jobs, et cetera, et cetera. Would you trade 400-plus years of that for having access to a few words that white people shouldn't really say publicly, right? What? That's the trade-off? And the white people are complaining about this? Look. Let me tell you something. How many times I've been called white boy in my life? I've never been insulted. All that means, Luka Doncic is a totally elite player in the NBA, is you are a white person, male, in this case, if you're a white boy, in the presence of people who are mostly not white, who are mostly black, African American usually, right? So among elite players in the NBA, if you see someone like Porzingis, a ball-handling guy who's an MVP caliber player, like, oh, okay, that's what it's just identifying the person by something unusual about them given their position. Now, would I be offended about the white boy part if I was Porzingis? Not at all. That's nothing. I'd be offended by the B-A part. I'd be like, who? What? Who are you calling? That's the real part. It's not the white boy. It's what's preceded the white boy. That could be a fight or should be beef, right? So that's the real offensive part. But even then, Montrez came to him the next day, all right, look, it's not about that. And Doncic is like, forget it. You think Doncic is worried about what someone says about him? Doncic is a gangster. Doncic is alpha. He came into the NBA basically barely beyond his teen years. It was like, I don't care about any of you. He's doing his thing. He's not rattled by that. in the slightest. And good on Montrez for saying, all right, my bad, I shouldn't have said that. But for anyone who thinks, or wants to make the point that there's a double standard, before you fix your mouth to say that, just consider the total circumstance for a second and save yourself the embarrassment.
Well, I mean, both of you guys are right. Growing up in the African-American community, I've heard far worse. I mean, playing at the park, even playing in the league, playing between those lines, it's a competitive